and they're free.
Yeah, we have a number of them. So Zoom is free, just up to a certain user limit. There is join.me. There's a bunch of, I mean, honestly, there's got to be 100 of them. There is a free version of Zoho Chat. You can use Skype. There's Google Hangouts. That's just a few I can remember off the top of my head. And I'm not sure if it's a matter of people not using them. I think Zoom is just kind of the standard right now. So that's why we're using Zoom. Other platforms have similar features. So if you need something free, then that's a good tip. You can go and see if you can find something. If you need a specific feature that's paid for on Zoom, you might be able to get that feature for free on another platform. Does that make sense? Dara, how are you?
Sorry. I'm good.
Just wanted to check in. So does anybody have any other questions before we get into a couple of the more advanced things with Zoom? No? Good. All right. So one thing we did mention it briefly was virtual backgrounds. And in Zoom on desktop or mobile, you can upload an image. So you can either create your own image or use a photograph you have or something like that, and it will try and replace the background behind you. One thing to know about that is it is fairly computer intensive. So if you have a lot of software running or you have an older computer and you try and put a virtual background on, or if you have an older phone, it may bog down your device, make your video choppy. So generally it's a good idea just to use a normal background, or, you know, something like we talked about with Lee, where you can use a green screen, you can have a printed background, you can have something like I have here where I just set up all my stuff behind me so people can see it. And then there is it's called Touch Up My Appearance. And that is a filter that you can turn on in Zoom. I think it's a paid feature, and that will oh, it's not. Yeah, it's a free one. Yeah, you can turn that on and it will reduce fine lines. And it's basically like an Instagram photo filter for your video, and makes you look slightly, I don't know, softer, I guess would be the answer to that. You can record not only just the video, but on a paid account, you can get a transcription. So Zoom will go through the audio and convert it to text and email you a transcript of everything that was said. That's also great if you're doing something you want to put on your website maybe later. So you can have a transcript of all the information that everybody was talking about, and then that transcript can be put on your website. There is a larger gallery view also. So you can have, as long as your screen is large enough, you can have a 49-person view on your screen instead of the normal 16 or 25. It's 16 if you have the chat window on, 25 if you don't. It can also go up to 20, I think, as people log on. There's also, when you're one of the presenters, at the very top, there is a thing that says total non-video participants. And you can click that if you want to see the names of the people that are on that don't have video showing. And you can also, again, you can turn that off too. There is some administration features that you only get as a paid person. There's some user management and stuff like that. There's also, if you're sharing your screen, there is a pause button on the shared screen that you can pause it, go back to your video, and then unpause it and go back to sharing your screen without having to go through the whole setup to share your screen again. You can also, if you have a paid account or if you're in a Zoom room, you can use more than one screen share at once. So you could hypothetically have more than one person sharing their screen at a time if you wanted to compare differences between documents or something like that. So that's some of the more advanced stuff you can get. Anything beyond that, you can look all that up. Zoom has a very robust help section. And again, as Eugen said, there is other options that you can use. Also for like video streaming and stuff, there is software like StreamYard and Everstream, BeLive, and those are if you want to broadcast to a platform like Facebook or YouTube or something like that. A lot of people who do Zoom will also use a streaming service so that you could broadcast your meeting at the same time as you're having it. And that's more of a, if you're a marketing agency, coaching company, something like that, that's probably something you would do. I don't see a whole lot of use for that for other people. What are we doing on time? We're almost kind of at our time limit here. Does anybody have any other questions? Or Deanna, did you want to say anything before we wrap it up here?
So thanks, Matt. Actually, you have another 30 minutes. It's actually an hour long.
Oh, okay.
And the next 30 minutes we'd like to preserve for folks that have questions or, further demonstrations or anything that you could assist them with would be really helpful. So now if you want to just transition to questions, that would be great.
Sure. So, well, first, any questions about Zoom itself? And if we don't have any questions there, we can move to kind of any online meeting or platform software. And from that, we can just kind of move to general questions that I could help with. For any of you who don't know me, I run a digital marketing and advertising agency for the last 6 years. That was 2 businesses that merged. So before that, I ran another one for about 10 years. So I have about 16 to 20 years of web design and marketing experience, as well as working for some pretty big organizations. So if you have questions about marketing, advertising, social media, all that kind of stuff, I'd be happy to answer those too. So does anybody have any questions about Zoom first, or?
I have a quick question, Matt.
Oh, Doug, go ahead, Tara.
You might have covered it when I wasn't here, but did we discuss at all about what that the security that's been going on in the news? They've been talking a lot about not putting your login on like your registration pages or your social media pages because there have been people popping in and like what they're calling bombing your whatever your meeting. Have we discussed any of that?
No, but that is a good point. You don't want to put your Zoom meetings on publicly accessible locations. So like if it's something like a Facebook profile or like a LinkedIn profile that only your connections or your friends would be able to see that. If it's a business page, then anyone can see it. If it is a group, it's going to depend on if the group is a closed group or an open public group. So there's different security around different types of social media. You don't want to be spamming it out on your Twitter feed because anybody could just search for that easily. And what bombing is somebody would come into the group and they'd be like, hey, buy my stuff, go to this website. They'd paste it all in the chat and everything, and then they leave. So I don't know what use that is to people, obviously. I mean, I wouldn't buy anything from anyone who did that, but.
Well, I think the most public one that just happened was somebody put things in the background, inappropriate.
All right, behind them.
So just everybody being aware and being super careful about how they're getting their login information to everybody. It's an additional step, but it will keep you protected from having an interrupted meeting with something not memorable.
Yeah, if it's going to be on a business page, like your website or something like that, you should basically wall it off with like where they have to give you an email or something and you have to send it to them. You can also have like a password that you're going to send out through chat or something like that to people. If it's open, it's webinar software or something like that, then make everybody muted. That's a setting in Zoom where you can say that participants are muted when they start. And then, obviously you could just kind of screen out the people you don't want. I mean, are you going to stop it all? Probably not. But I would say with the amount of meetings going on, it's unlikely to happen to most people, just try and be a little bit careful. I don't think there's any real security risk here unless you're, talking about something secret, in which case you should only be sending it to the specific people that are going to be in the meeting.
True.
All right, questions. Who else do we have? Sure, Richard.
Just along the same security issue type things, for those of you who have Alexa or other home office things, it's especially if you're talking about sensitive things like, you know, I deal with coaching and sensitive issues that the businesses are going through. I want to make sure that my Alexa is off so that she's not recording things. There have been situations where that information has come through Alexa. So just another tip to make sure. Either make sure you're in a place where those recording devices don't hear you, or make sure they're off.
Toby and is it Annette? Annette, do you want to go?
Question. And one of the questions is, I was on a social Zoom the other day and we kept interrupting each other. And so I was wondering how do you, when you're having a discussion, how do you eliminate that where you're talking over each other?
You can have people raise their hand, right, on the video. In some cases, you kind of just have to be patient, I think. We run into that with broadcasting stuff a lot when we do podcasts, is because you can't have two people talking at the same time or you can't hear anyone. So you just kind of have to just pause and wait for your chance to kind of jump in. But you can set that up between, you know, if it's your company meeting, you can have something where you set up your hand. If you're using a Zoom room, they have a button on it that says raise hand. So people can actually click the button to raise their hand first. So those are a couple ways to do it. If anybody else has any ideas, I'm open to, you know, any suggestions too. We haven't really found it a problem in our company. We've been remote for 6 years. So Toby, you got a question?
Yeah, can you hear me? I think I turned off my mute. I get concerned about my backdrop and like this light above my head where I have to keep my head blocking it while I'm talking to people. And I tried to do the green screen thing. It did not go well. So I'm just kind of looking at how do I make my backdrop look more professional? And I have all the lights on I can. I noticed that my screen is like a wide angle and some people's is not. Is that something that I turned on?
It's dependent on the camera.
So
There's
just
also, there may be a setting for it, but it might just be the type of lens on the camera that you have. There's also, you can put like a dark cloth or something over your light to dim it. So like a dark pillowcase or something like that, if you can pin that up or something like that over your light. You could try using the virtual background, see if that works. There's also a piece of software you can get called XSplit. It's XSPLIT. And XSplit can separate programmatically the background from the foreground and put a digital background in for you. It does have a cost to it. I'm not sure what it is. I think it's around $10 a month or something. And you could try that. The other thing you could try is if you can orient your desk differently. I know I had to pick up my whole desk. It was a pain in the butt with all my computers and everything. I had to unwire everything and rewire it so I could get my face in front of a window. But you know, there's a few things that you can do to help out with that. Does that help?
Okay, thanks, Matt.
No problem.
Matt, I might just jump in with a comment to Annette about the jumping in on top of each other. We've had several like Hillsboro Community Foundation board meetings via Zoom and have found that it's helpful if the host basically just calls on each person to make a comment around the table regarding that topic so that every person has an opportunity to feel heard and to voice their opinion, but yet it's not coming all at you at once. So it's just, I just had a roster of folks and just went down and switched up the roster, you know, occasionally when we had different questions and gave other people an opportunity to go first. But it really was kind of a roll call of walking through the list and having everybody have an opportunity. It just seemed to go more effective and efficiently, rather than, you know, having to have people and having the host try to identify whose voice that was that started. Hope that's helpful.
Good. Thank you, Deanna. Darcy, did you have a question, or were you just putting an example of putting your hand up earlier?
No, I had actually an answer
Sure.
as well to Annette's question. And what I do, same as Deanna, I know who's all there, but I also do a timer and give people actually instruction or an assignment, like this is what I need you to answer on. So it's not all over the place, but having a timer is a really good idea too.
Yeah, and that can help, especially if you have a lot of people and you have, you know, only a certain amount of time for your meeting. So I think, do we have any more questions about online meetings? I can't see anybody who's on the phone. So if you have any questions, now's your time to chime in, and we'll give you about 15 seconds and then we're going to move on.
Matt, I might just
Yeah.
add and ask a question regarding things like official board meetings. And do you see that potentially there's going to be some changes to the way that board meetings can be recorded, and that this can become a part of the record and the chat and the questions and the recording as an actual board meeting minutes that are used, as opposed to sort of the old-fashioned way that nonprofits and other organizations have been conducting business and officially?
Right. I think that companies that are geographically dispersed have already been doing that, using the transcription. One note about transcription is that it's obviously not going to be perfect, especially if you have a couple people who kind of bump into each other talking and stuff. It can get a little garbled. So you might want to keep an eye on your transcriptions, but you can always save the recording also. I think investing in some secure cloud space is a good idea to be able to save off your meetings and stuff like that. You don't necessarily want to trust that Zoom is going to be around forever and that everything that they have is secure. So I would take your recordings, offload them somewhere that you can be more assured that they're secure. I don't want to get too much into cybersecurity stuff, but it's a good idea to have cloud-based storage that, number one, is secure, that you can securely put stuff to, you know who has and who does not have access to it, and make sure you have encryption protection, because you don't want somebody in your organization to get a virus, encrypt all your files, and then having to send out, 10 grand of Bitcoin to some hacker to get your files back. So make sure that you have something safe. We have lots of computer security experts through the chamber that you guys can be in contact with. And I believe those, you can find them in the chamber directory. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yes, thank you. It's all good.
And then, does anybody else have a question? I thought Annette put up her hand, but she left. So I think maybe she was just waving to say bye. All right, so let's open it up. Let's just go around like Darcy was saying and see if anybody has any comments or questions. And Lee, you are the first on my screen, so why don't we start with you?
No, the only thing I was going to mention, like you'd briefly said it with the hand, in case people don't want to sit here like this, for 5 minutes. If you click by the chat down at the bottom, there's a button that says participants. That shows everybody in there, and there's actually options at the bottom, and one of them is raise hand, and it puts a little hand on your screen. So that way the host knows you need attention. That was the only thing I was going to bring up. Thank you.
Good, and it's a good pointer. That does not necessarily show up on every, I don't think that shows up on the mobile version. Honestly, I haven't tried it on the mobile one. But if you click on participants at the bottom, that's kind of down left of the share button, right of the invite button, and then you can hit the button that says raise hand, and it'll show in the participant list who has their hand up. And that's usually useful when you have more people and you have a moderator. So there's a lot of times large meetings and stuff, they'll have the person who is the presenter, and then they'll also have a moderator. And the moderator's job is to figure out who's going to talk next and who's asking questions and stuff like that. Gabrielle, do you want to go next?
I do, yeah. No, this was my first Zoom meeting, so it's very informal, and yeah, it makes sense. I'll just keep practicing.
Nice. Gets a lot easier the more you do it.
Yeah, thank you.
And Judy, do you want to go next?
Yeah, this is also my first meeting, and it has been really informative. Yeah, I will just watch and listen. Thank you.
Sounds good. Darcy Edwards.
No, great content and very informative things. I did not go to my office today and have it perfect. And I think that might be a part you could bring up too, Matt, is that, you know what, you don't have to be perfect all the time. And, you know, if you can make it and it's a meeting that needs to happen, do the best you can. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to invest in, you know, all the gadgets and so forth. My gadgets are on the way. They'll be here for the home office one, but you don't have to be perfect. Just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And it's also going to depend on the meeting. If you're doing like a one-to-one meeting with another business owner or a potential client kind of thing, and it's a little more casual depending on your business, you know, it's fine. You don't need to have all the bells and whistles as long as you get the point across. But like I said, you need to make sure that the audio is clear, because if people can't see you that well, it's not as big of a deal as if they can't hear you, then it's a waste of time. So make sure that your audio is clear. And, you know, like I said, make sure you dress appropriate, and your background is, at least take care of your background and look at it, because you want to make sure that you don't have anything that you don't want people seeing from your house or your home or anything like that, anything private in the background. And then Toby, you want to ask a question?
Thanks, Matt. I just wanted to make a comment. I've been doing a whole lot of video conferencing the last couple of weeks, and just a couple of things that I've noticed as far as etiquette goes. And it's a large group, so everybody's not watching me, but, you know, drinking and eating while you're talking to people. I've had people that'll stand up and kind of do one of these and still talk to me, and I'm going, where are you? Are you, you know, we're trying to connect as much as possible. So, you know, just ideas like don't eat and drink while you're on a meeting. And especially if you are the speaker, if your meeting is a small meeting. I try to lock my cat out of my room here. She destroys the carpets trying to get back in, but, you know, having other outside distractions. I know that when I'm really getting intent with somebody, I might lean in and talk with them. You know, it's really obvious if you're looking at your phone while you're on a meeting. So just little things that when we're all so focused on this one area, that we continue to try to stay maybe even a little bit more engaged than you might be in another person-to-person meeting. So that was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think it's going to depend on the situation, obviously, but you don't want to be ignoring what the video looks like. You also don't want to be like, you don't want to be like too close in, you know, like this, where it's weird. And anything like, you know, kind of mid-level and up is good. Some people stand up, like if you have a standing desk, they like to stand and talk and kind of get more. You want to be back further if you gesture a lot, you know, if you talk with your hands and stuff. I don't, but so those are also good tips. Just to keep back from it, you know, keep back from the camera a little bit. You don't want to be, and also, like you said, you don't want to be like standing up so people are staring at your belly button while you're trying to have a conversation. You know, just do it like you would in person, right? And I think that will go a long way. Deanna, do you want to go next?
So I did contemplate my backdrop really carefully. If you notice and you can see it, it's old pictures of Hillsboro, which I really felt would make me look younger.
Right.
So that was a process that I went through and contemplating that very strategically. So there's a 125-year-old photo. So I think maybe, what do I look, 80? But Matt, thank you very much. And I really appreciate all the comments today. Very excited about the work that the Small Business Entrepreneurial Council is doing to bring these programs to our small businesses. And just stay tuned. This is a program that will run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday from 10 to 11 with a different topic and a different expert. And we're hoping that we get some advice from our small businesses in terms of what topics do they want to hear from and hear about in these really very interesting times that we're all in this together and we're all learning together. So Matt, thank you very much for participating today.
Yeah, no problem. And if you have suggested topics, you can email Dara. I'm sorry, Dara. Dara, what's your email again, just so everybody knows?
Dara S at hillchamber.org. DARAS.
All right. Do you want to put that in the chat also so that people have that if they have a topic that they want us to find an expert for to discuss? And we will get that. Richard, do you want to give us your thoughts and ask any questions that you have?
Yeah, I was just going to make a suggestion as far as what Deanna was commenting about official meetings minutes. And the way that we have addressed that in a nonprofit that I'm working with is that they pull up a Google Docs, and so record the minutes right there on the screen. It's the document that's shared, so that if any corrections need to be made, it can be done right there at that point in time. And then if there's another document or something that needs to be shared, they'll just take it off of the meeting minutes at that point in time. But if we just keep the minutes running as the meeting goes along, it seems to work very well.
Good. And there's other kind of more secure document sharing as well, based on what your company has. If you have something like Microsoft Teams, or if you have Zoho or something like that your company uses internally, SharePoint, those kind of things, then you can use those kind of shared document services that'll work with, like an Exchange server, whatever you have at your company. So those can be good options. Also, if you have a large company, especially, I know like a couple of people work with the bank and stuff like that, make sure that before you start using something like a Google Doc, that you check what their preferred system is, because you don't want to get into some kind of trouble because you're using an outside service with internal information. Nothing against Google Docs. We use them all the time. I'm just saying you want to check with your company and make sure you're using what's appropriate to the company and what they've made a decision on. Mark Whitney from PGE, do you want to tell us if you have any questions or any comments so far?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thanks for hosting this. And I've used the free version a few times with the 40-minute limit. First couple of times they gave us grace, gave us more time, but then they weren't as gracious after that. And sometimes we just signed out and started a meeting and continued that way. But I think I'm going to be using it a lot more the next couple of months. So I think I will be getting a paid version of that. I think it's going to be worth it, and I appreciate hearing about some of the extra features you get with the paid version. One thing that with our church we had maybe 50 people on it, and the person running the meeting was able to divide us into subgroups, and I thought that was kind of cool. But I'm not sure what we would use that for business purposes, but apparently that's a feature that you can use in Zoom.
Yeah, and like I said, and like Eugen had suggested, there's other services that you can use that are free depending upon what you need. If it's just going to be smaller meetings and stuff, we have our own internal system that we use, but that we pay for through our CRM system, which is Zoho. So we have our own internal one that we use already. Your company may already have one, but if you're searching for one, I would kind of make a list of the features that you need and go out and research that and see if there's a free thing that does what you need. The one thing that you can kind of look at as kind of the model to figure out if you need a free one is, number one, how many users do you need in a meeting at a time? How many people are going to be attending at once? And then if you need recording or not, and also any security concerns that your company might have. Those are kind of the things to look for. And then you can go through all the different software. We're not affiliated with Zoom in any way. We don't have an affiliate account or anything like that. The chamber's not affiliated with them. It's just the thing that most of the people were using and asking about. So that's why we're talking about Zoom today. So Dara, did you have anything you want to add, or you want to maybe add a talk at the end?
No, I just want to say thank you for coming. And I had a little technical difficulty this morning, so I wasn't right there, Johnny, on the spot, and not typical, but my apologies.
Brad Smith, you have your hand up in the participant area there. I don't know if you were just testing it out or if you have a question. Do you want to? If you're still
I was testing it out, but I do have a comment, and it's as you can see from mine. When in doubt, turn your video off.
Right.
If you think there's something in the background, or a kid might run by, or you are wearing a hoodie and didn't shave, and you're in a meeting that you didn't realize that you were going to, turn your video off.
That's right. You can always join without video. One thing of note, if you're going to have a meeting where people are potentially calling in on the phone, on the unpaid Zoom accounts, Zoom sent a notice the day before yesterday saying that they may not have the phone call-in system available at all times because it's too busy. They don't have enough phone lines for it. So be aware of that. If you need people to dial in with their phone for the audio, that you might need to have a paid version or another solution for that. If you're just going to have a phone meeting also without the video chat, a lot of times you can do that with a normal business phone system, or you can do it through like phone.com. There's a whole bunch of other places that you can sort that out. Twilio, I think, does it also. There's a bunch of them. Like I said, you can just Google most of that stuff or Bing it.
Be mindful that school has started doing online education, real education, where they're required to do classes, and some of the teachers are using classroom situations where they're dialing in as well as listening on. So that impact will probably hit as of the 13th of April. So we may find that things are slower to get on and that it takes people a little longer to get into the room. So start earlier maybe so that you're on time. But that's going to be a bit of a challenge with a lot of students in our area.
Yeah, it's a good idea if you're going to hold a meeting also to, if the meeting's say 10 o'clock, set the meeting so that people can log in when the host is not in the room yet. Because that means like when I logged in today and Lee was already here, you know, so he was able to log in and kind of start before everybody else if he's early, right? Another thing that you can do is just make sure that you log into the meeting a little earlier if you're going to be the host or one of your people from your company is there, so that you can kind of welcome everybody and kind of set the tone and get everything going. And that's something that we do when we do recordings is we tell people to get to log in 5 minutes earlier, but we log in 10 minutes earlier in case they're extra early. So we want to have that, you know, little extra leeway there. Matthew Walston, do you want to give us your comments or thoughts there?
Well, I actually work with Gabrielle at Longbottom, so I will just say hello to
Okay.
everybody. I would just also mention for those of you who are at home, if there's others in the house, that to make sure they're aware that you're on, because I've been on the other end of that where there's folks also in my home who are also doing meetings, and I've walked out when I've heard the phone ring and wasn't aware that they were on there. So just, it can be embarrassing.
Right.
Just be aware
So,
that let others in the house know if you're on there.
Is Longbottom open for to-go coffee right now?
We are.
And that's the one off Brookwood, right?
Yeah, all takeout.
All right, takeout and regular.
catering.
What hours?
What are we, Gabe? Are we? I think it's like 7 to 3.
7
7 to 2:30 on weekends and 6 to 3:30 during the week.
All right, good. I'm gonna have to come get a coffee.
Yeah. And we also have an app called Joe app. So you can also download that app and we'll do curbside. So basically there's no money transaction. You just load up how much, it's like you make yourself your own gift card and say if you want to have, you know, $40 on there, you just go on the Joe app, order, we'll get the order and then we'll have it ready for you at curbside.
Sounds
so
good.
It's real efficient.
That is.
And there's a lot of other businesses in the community that are doing the Joe app as well.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Eugen, do you want to go next there? And if you have any more comments or any other suggestions for us?
No comments. Thank you. First time in this particular event. I plan to attend more in the future. Normally, before the shutdown, I would be busy at this time of day. But yeah, thank you. No other comment.
Yeah, no problem. Tom, do you want to give us any of your comments there?
Yeah, this is the fourth time I think that I've used it, and I want to thank you because it's the first time that I've ever known exactly what I'm doing.
Nice.
I didn't even know that there was a toolbar on the other three ones. So this has been very helpful, and I want to thank you and the chamber for giving us this information. I think this is going to become a part of the new normal. I don't think we're ever going to get to the point where we don't want to get together with people on a more face-to-face basis. But I do think that there's a lot of times when meetings are just inconvenient, and this is a much better option. The other thing is that on the free version, because there's a time limit, it makes your meetings more efficient because everybody knows they've got a certain amount of time to get it in, so I think there's a lot of advantages to it. And as I get to figuring out what all these bells and whistles are, I think it'll be even better. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. And funny, I think you must live somewhere near me because I see you, at least before everybody's quarantined, I'd see you like all the time around the neighborhood. Tiffany, do you want to go next? We do have a hard stop at 11 here, so try and keep it to a couple minutes. And
Sure. Well, this is Tiffany with Pure Clean Restoration Services. We're just still out in the community trying to do our best with emergency service planning, because obviously water and fire doesn't stop just because there's a, pandemic. So anyways, but yeah, this has been really awesome to actually connect with other people because as you were saying earlier, this is our week 3 of working at home, and it's kind of getting lonesome, but I have a 14-month-old that's pretty entertaining some days, and so we're working on it.
yeah, well, that's something that takes up a lot of time. I know my daughter's only 4 and she's constantly needs attention. Neil, do you have anything that you wanted to add? No, Neil, Kimberly, did you have anything that you wanted to add?
Yeah, this has been really enjoyable, and it's working out really well. And I'm actually looking forward to doing this for our annual meeting for the food co-op.
Good. And Brad, I know that we just talked to you a minute ago. Did you have anything you wanted to add? And then we'll ask Jen, and then we'll pass it back to Dara.
No, I'm good. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. Jen?
I'm good too. This was very informative, Matt. I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this for all of us.
Good. I appreciate you posting the presentation for everybody so that they could get it. And that link is in the chat. Also, make sure Jen's been hard at work on the Hillsboro Chamber website. So they have a lot of business information resources for COVID. There's information about the upcoming there's the SBA disaster loan. There is the new Hillsboro grant program is starting on April 7th that you have to apply for. You can only apply during that one day. So all that information is on the chamber website. Dara, did you want to wrap it up for us here?
Actually,
Deanna has her hand raised.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm going to jump in if I could, because I just really want to promote tomorrow's program. 10 o'clock, we have regarding the SBA payroll recovery fund that's available, the loan that's available. We have folks from KeyBank. KeyBank is a number 9 in the nation for SBA loans. This has been a lot of questions happening regarding when do I apply? Do I take advantage of this? How do I go about doing it? So please plan to join us tomorrow at 10 a.m. We have 2 folks from KeyBank that will walk you through the process and have you help you understand sort of what's involved if you decide to go this route, what it means, how you want to, how you have to spend the money, what the payback is, whether it's forgivable, and what parameters are around it being forgivable. So really important topic. And be sure and tell your friends that it might be asking you in terms of what that means, to send them the link and make sure that they get registered for the program. Thank you again, Matt. Really appreciate it. Special shout out to the Small Business Entrepreneurial Council that's putting these programs on. Again, 3 days a week from 10 to 11. And if you have a topic, please put that in the chat or send me or Dara some information about what topic you're interested in, and we will get that. We'll find an expert that can address that.
Sounds good. Everyone have a great day. And you can always shoot me an email if you have marketing questions, matt@hookseo.com. And make sure that when you get when you see it on Facebook or other social media, or you sign up to be on tomorrow, that you share that with the other business owners you know, because that's going to be information. Anyone who has employees, even if you've already furloughed your employees, make sure you log in tomorrow and find out how you can take advantage of the SBA disaster grant and the payroll. I forget what they call it again, but get your payroll covered.
Recovery.
That's right. The Payroll Recovery Act. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Make sure, because it's going to be important. You want to keep those people getting paid so we can keep the economy afloat.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Have a great day, everybody. Thanks for the Chamber for putting this on, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Thanks.
Thank you.